and welcome to another one of my videos. In today's video I'm going to run through a whole balance sequence for you. Main rules are, as ever, only gently pushing at your boundaries. You should be able to be smiling and reasonably relaxed while you're doing the exercises. There's no point in practicing something that feels fearful because the idea is to build your confidence up. So stay within what feels nice for you. During the balance exercises you can of course hold on, and you should hold on if that's the only way you can do them safely, but remembering that we want to be using our hands as little as is safe to do so, because the more we're concentrating on getting our balance through our legs, the better. All the time that we're touching with our hands, our brain is paying attention to our arm and gaining much less really from the exercises that we're doing through our legs. So hold on if you need to, but try and keep within the range of movement that you can do where you don't need to be touching. Okay, so there are the rules. We're going to begin as we usually do, by just paying attention to our feet. And if every time you stand up, say you've been sat watching the television or anything, you just give yourself 5 seconds to pay attention to your feet, your balance will be much better automatically, because your brain is automatically communicating better through your legs. So it's beginning just to feel your weight through your big toes, and then the weight through the outside borders of your feet, fronts of your feet, back. Say hello to your left leg, your right leg. Just be aware, as we've discussed in previous videos, which is your favourite leg, and just making sure that you're spending at least, if not more time, through your less favoured leg, just so that it can have a chance to have decent communication. Then we're going to wake up our legs by very gently bending and straightening. If you feel that you have some clunking going on when you're doing that, just see whether a slight shift of where your weight goes through your feet can alter that. We always want to be practicing movement in a way which is not painful, which is pain-free, rather than in a way which is painful. And quite often when we get pain, we spend a bit of time kind of trying to reproduce that pain and find out what's causing it. And we don't spend so much time just seeing how we can move without getting the pain. And that practicing moving, which is less painful, is really good, because it just gives your brain a chance to see, hey, actually movement isn't such a bad thing. Movement is always beneficial for us. So having a little sway side to side, a bit of a ski, if you've been a skier, or imagine that you're ice skating or roller skating, if you did that. Just to get that feeling of a rhythmical movement. And then we're going to head on from here. Once you feel that you've woken up your legs and your feet enough, take your time, it doesn't have to be speeding. You can spend a good 10 minutes just doing that. Is a really nice way of loosening up your back and loosening up your legs. But if you want to then move on to your balancing, it's just practicing balancing through one leg and swapping over. If you need to put your hand down for this, that's fine, but put as little weight through your hand as you can possibly do. Just experience what does each different leg feel like. Where can you be more relaxed? Can you relax your breathing? Can you pull your tummy muscles in while you're doing it? And then maybe you might want to just experience a bit longer on that leg. If you don't want to touch with your hand but don't completely lift the other leg off, that's another thing to play around with. It's just putting as much weight through it as you can. And eventually progress into things like reaching forwards and backwards. Now, a really nice thing to do with the reaching forwards and backwards is to imagine a clock face on the floor, and just going forwards to 12, 1, 2, 3, coming back around, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, back to 12, coming up. Of course, you don't have to do the whole 12 all at once. You can do a quarter of a clock each time, swapping over, and then feeling what that's like on the other leg. If you're feeling flash, you can always go back in the opposite direction, so anti-clockwise through. Try and hold those tummy muscles in as you're doing it, which is quite nice. Just check that you're not screwing your feet up on the floor. It's really important that our feet, that they're not there to claw the floor, they're there to be open and give lots of feedback about what's happening. So the more relaxed and open your feet can be on the floor when you're doing these exercises, the better. Another progression from that, once you've got found doing the clock at different speeds, whether you do it slowly or quickly. Often slowly is more difficult, of course, because we're spending longer through the leg. And then to make that even more difficult, you can include an arm with that. And just reaching out as you do that. That kind of means that you're dividing your attention, so you're having to think of two things at once, which is a very nice thing for us to have to be doing with our brains. This divided attention, so we're not paying attention to just one thing, is a really good exercise for us to do for our cognitive ability as well as our physical ability. So that's a nice thing to do. So it's reaching with your arm as well as your hand. Try opposite hand to opposite leg, or the same arm. Or swap over maybe once you get to 6. So there's lots of ways you can mess around with using the imaginary clock face. It's really important that you're not looking down when you do it. Keep looking ahead. Remember previous videos where I've talked about reducing the amount that we use our eyes. If we're looking ahead, we're having to use sense of sensation and proprioception where our foot is in space. So it's touch and body awareness rather than our eyes, and it's a nice way of practicing reducing that over reliance on our eyes for our balance. The more we can use our legs for our balance, the better it is for us. So making sure that you're doing on both legs, clockwise and anti-clockwise. The other way that you can do it is not moving your legs at all, so that you're reaching for the clock. So 12, 1, 2, 3. Progression is, of course, is to reach down and come up. 12, 1, 2, 3, all the way around, swapping hands if you like. It's not an exercise to be working on shoulder range of movement necessarily. So if you've got tight shoulders, then just go as far distance as feels nice. This is an exercise which is in allowing you to move freely and reaching out. If we're including pain in that or something that feels unpleasant, then that's not terribly helpful for the exercise. So that's another way that you can do it. So it's reaching 1, 2, or 1, 2, or if you have to hold on, smaller movements. So remembering that turning, again, if we're incorporating some turning in our exercises, then we're working on our inner ear, our vestibular apparatus, and we're switching that down a little bit so we're not getting that startled reaction to movement. So anything when you're working on your balance which requires turning and twisting, as we've done before, is going to be really positive for toning down overreaction of our inner ear. So that's a nice thing to incorporate. So you can incorporate it when you're doing your pointing for the clock, or you can incorporate it in the beginning or the end of your exercises by just turning and touching alternate work surfaces. Or if you're not in a corner, just along the straight side. That turning, I have found with a lot of people, is really important to allow that sense of feeling happy and confident when we're pushing our balance and pushing our boundaries. So particularly as we're not going out and about quite as much as we were, maybe you're not going shopping anymore, all those things were naturally incorporated into your everyday life, and they may not be as much now. So we have to reproduce it in order to not reduce those boundaries. So stay safe. I hope those exercises were helpful for you today. Find your level, find the things that feel nice for you. Once you've practiced those and they start to feel a bit easier, then make the progression up. It's not imperative that you're able to do all of the progressions in the first time of doing the exercises. Try doing them with music on, because you might find that having a rhythm of doing it feels nicer for you. Depends on what's good for your own system. So stay safe, keep moving and enjoying your movement.